And hello, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of The Zone TV Movie Entertainment with me, your host, Jonathan, once again bringing you my thoughts and review for tonight's episode of Batwoman Season 1, Episode 17. 18. I apologize, 18. And before I begin, gotta remind you guys, spoiler alert if you haven't caught up to the episode. And also, for you fans out there of Star Wars, tomorrow's Star Wars Day, May the 4th. So tomorrow is the final episode of Clone Wars. If you guys are very interested in my opinion on Clone Wars, I will be doing a recap of the final season of Clone Wars. Tomorrow's the final episode of Clone Wars. And give you a little preview right now. It's beyond crazy. I will be doing a full review of that. And I will also do a review of the full series as a whole. Probably discussing in depth of what they could have done. How does it affect the canon moving forward. And all that good stuff. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. So let's talk about Batwoman. Gotta be honest with you about this episode. Very fun episode. Wasn't that like, oh my god, the city's in trouble. What is Batgirl gonna do? None of that crazy stuff. This episode pretty much sets up things to come. And set up beautifully, by the way. First of all, we got some cool references to former Bat technology that Batman uses. If you guys ever notice why Batwoman, has the long wig hair, obviously to disguise herself. So there was a scene in this episode where her sister Mira shows up and is like, it suggests like maybe she put some shock, into the cowl. That's actually a reference to Batman when he has a shock to whoever tries to pull off his mask. They get electrocuted. So that was a cool little nod. But this episode pretty much focused on the team finding Lucius Fox's journal. That pretty much contains all the secrets of the, who Batman is, who, where the Batcave is probably located, the technology behind the suit and all the other gadgets, I'm pretty sure is there as well. But they needed to get the journal back from Tommy Elliott, I believe is his name. Bruce's so-called friend who's very obsessed with him. He knows he's Batman. He wants to bring him back. He wants, I guess, to ruin him in his own way. So, while that's all happening, you have Tommy, who's locked up in Arkham for being kind of crazy. Pretty much, the police think he's not sane enough. The Crows think he's not sane enough to stand trial for the murder of Lucius Fox. However, they decided to change their mind and make him that. So Alice and Mouse come up with an idea to pretty much, quote-unquote, fake his death. Which they do. And then they pretty much take his face off and put his face on somebody else. And make it look like he suicided himself in his Arkham cell to fool pretty much everybody. But then, of course, we got the big reveal with him being bandaged up and becoming who he's known to be in the Batman lore. A.K.A. Tommy becomes A.K.A. Hush. Now, Hush in the comics and the Batman lore, very mysterious figure that Batman sometimes he can't figure out who he is. Sometimes he's over 2 steps ahead of Batman. That's why I said 2 steps ahead of Batman himself. And Batman's always 2 steps ahead of everybody else. But Hush sometimes is always 2 steps ahead of him. So we got to see, the bandages on his face because his face is kind of burnt. In the comic book lore, his face is burnt. Sometimes it's peeled off depending, what comic book is using what. So there you go. So on this one, his face is off, completely off. So he's all bandaged up, kind of like in Gotham, like Jerome, when his face was all peeled up, he had bandages on. Kind of a little nod to the Hush character there, but in a little bit differently. Because in that one, Joker put his, when he carved his face off, he put it on a wall to pretty much make a point to Batman. But anyway, very different. So we got to see Hush to set up next week's episode. So that's going to be cool. Hush is a very interesting character. Like I said, he's kind of a newer character. Don't know too much about him. But it's very cool. Also on this episode, we got to see Batwoman get captured by a whole bunch of criminals who kind of auction off her. And I'm not joking about this. Auction off not only herself, but also her gadgets. That's right. Some guy in the episode actually bought her grappling gun for like 10 grand. So that was funny. So her sister had to show up pretending to be an arms dealer to pretty much buy Batwoman, trying to get the bat suit and all that, so try to save her. Kind of didn't work. You know how that happens, where big auction happens with villains, and then a bigger villain shows up, and then a whole bunch of chaos happens, and then the superhero that's involved with it already escapes, follows the plan, or it shows up at the time to pretty much save the day. Pretty much same thing here. Batwoman was captured. Bigger villain shows up, pretty much distraction. Not only that, because Julia also got caught. You know, Alfred's, I think, granddaughter. She gets captured as well. She's being tortured, but she's an assassin. She can handle herself. So that happens, and then you have that bootleg Catwoman, Black Canary wannabe burglar girl shows up, distracts a couple of people, and then Batwoman's sister shows up and helps her out. She escapes, does her thing. Which, by the way, the fight choreography in this is second only to Arrow, in my opinion. I think it's very good. You know, they use a lot of camera tricks for it. It's fine. I like that a lot. Obviously, at the end of the episode, we find that the book was stolen by, I guess, Batwoman's one-night stand with the bartender from the club that she went to once again. She went to the same club again. She met up with the girl, hooked up with her again. She takes the book at the end of it the next morning. So there you go with that. So now Alice has the book. So what's she going to do with that book? Who knows? She can't even crack it. She opens the book and she finds out that it's like in Morse code, I believe. So smart on Lucius on that one. You know, he can't leave his secrets lying around for anybody to figure out. So that's pretty cool. But, you know, we know some more information about who's in Gotham and who's not. Obviously, we know from last week's episode, Joker's dead in that universe. So, obviously, we know he's Jack Napier version. So, he's a different version of the 89 Joker. So, which is in Earth Prime as well. So, that's interesting. Could have been destroyed for now. From the Earth is now reset. So, who knows. But still a pretty cool reference. Hush is coming next week. So, that's going to be fun. Is it going to be the main focus for next year's villain? If there is a next year for Batwoman, you know, I hear a lot about low ratings and stuff, so I don't even know. But I do hope that Batwoman gets another season. I really like this show a lot. Sure, it has some moments where it's like, okay, come on, but I really like the show a lot. I like the Alice character. I think she's cool. But, you know, I would like to see more villains. But let's face it, you know, Warner Brothers is kind of, not to be mean, kind of cheap when it comes to their Batman villains. It's not their fault, not really their fault. It's just that, you know, they're not going to play nicely even with their own shows, you know, putting certain characters in certain TV shows, you know. It was hard for them to even let Batman villains to be in Gotham. So you know, they're going to be very patient with that. So they got to find some Batwoman villains that they can use, you know. Harley Quinn, she's in that universe. She's locked up in Argus, so there's that. Deleted scene of Arrow. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, like I said, fun episode. Not like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen to the city episode. Oh, we also find that Julia might be hooking up with Sophia. That's no shocker. You know, that's gonna end up turning into them hooking up for a little bit. They break up, and then Sophie goes back to Kate. So that's definitely gonna happen eventually. So cool on that. So I'm looking forward to see what happens next moving forward. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about it. And did you guys like the way they introduced Hush? Did you guys think it was kind of cheesy? That you guys saw it come? You know, anybody could have saw him from miles away that it was coming anyway. But it was very cool. I thought they were going to save him for the last episode to show up. But I guess not. Maybe next week is the last episode. I'm not really sure how many episodes were filmed before all this pandemic stuff happened. But we have to wait and see what happens, and keep our fingers crossed that we do get a season 2, regardless of this whole pandemic. You know, they can wait the year after to give us our shows back, as long as they get renewed. That's all I care about. And, you know, I'd rather have Ruby Rose and everybody else in that show be safe, and all the other shows as well. But till then, we'll have to wait and find out. So leave me a comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about tonight's episode, and stay tuned for more. Thank you very much, and have a good night.